years of work went into planning for this market in Washington, D.C. This was before social media. 1997 was when websites names were just being offered. So gathering information about farmers market was mostly not on the web, but through visits to markets and discussions with market managers, meeting with farmers who were selling at markets in our area, and reviewing market materials, which often included some formal rules and procedures for markets and some marketing materials. And a lot of our discussions were with the market managers on what worked, what didn't work with their markets. Our farmers told us that what they wanted was very active, direct management of the market, because where they had seen farmers markets fail the most was when there was not active marketing and management of the market. So we tried to listen to all those voices as we were putting our rules and regulations together for the markets. And we looked at these best practices from all across the country, from New York to California, Wisconsin to Louisiana, trying to find the best way to structure what we wanted to do as far as a producer-only farmers market, so that this wasn't a resale market, this wasn't taking goods from other people and reselling them, and that's why I insist on calling them farmers and producers, because I do think that they are involved in the production of all the goods that come to market, and also that this was a food market. It was not going to be crafts, not antiques, not flea market items, but local and regional food. And that food was from a defined geographic area. And we're in Washington, D.C., so nobody's farming here. And so our geographic radius was about a 200-mile radius of the District of Columbia. So when we started in '97, FRESHFARM was the only producer-only market in Washington, D.C. There were other markets out in the suburbs, out in Arlington County, Virginia, out in Tacoma Park, Maryland, but no producer-only markets in D.C. Now, in 2012, there are over 30 markets just in D.C. So D.C., just like we know through all that USDA data counting and through FMC's reporting, D.C. is right in step with the growing popularity of farmers markets. Oh, it's amazing to see the growth and to see all the activity that's going on. In 2002, we started in '97. In 2002, FRESHFARM Markets actually started an informal meeting group of farmers market managers in our area. We called it the Farmers Market Collaborative. And these were people interested in knowing how to start a market. And, we got a lot of phone calls all the time. Well, how do you do that market? How do you make it work? Where do you get the farmers from? All that kind of stuff. And people wanted to know all the time. So we thought, maybe if we bring these people together who are either starting up markets or want to start up markets, that maybe we could share information and help them. And mostly what we were sharing is our rules and procedures, the forms that we use to record information at markets, like counting customers and counting the amount of food donated at market, counting the chef demos, counting the people that don't come to market, the farmers that don't come, so we have an accurate record of all that. But because of D.C.'s location, we had market managers coming from Virginia and Maryland, as well as in our D.C. area. And a lot of the issues that we discussed were common. They were specific, not so much dealing with state regulations, but how do you make a successful farmers market? When we started to open up more markets, FRESHFARM Markets now has 11. I'll talk about that in a minute. But when we started to open more markets, doing this collaborative was not something that we had the staff time for. So a group in D.C. called FRAC, many of you may know of that, Food Resource and Action Center, actually got a little grant money from USDA and took on this whole issue of having a sort of informal collaborative. And again, it's D.C., Maryland, and Virginia folks that get together, and it's usually every other month. But it's still one thing that FRESHFARM has been a resource to, and that we find very valuable in sharing information about specific market type issues, whether it be food sampling, how to do chef demos, how to get more people at your markets, that kind of thing. It's just been very valuable to be part of that. Also, as food stamps have been started at farmers markets. FRESHFARM started taking food stamps in 2008, going through that whole big application process with USDA. The collaborative that we had locally with the market managers made it a lot easier to understand what issues we'd be facing, how to set up our systems, and share information. It was really valuable to us in getting started. This year, FRESHFARM Markets is operating 11 farmers markets. We have 5 in D.C., 4 in Maryland, and 2 in Virginia. We have our same producer-only model at all of these markets. Everything is basically the same as far as recruiting the farmers, recording and reporting market information, marketing the markets, our chef programs, or letting organizations table at markets, and then all our financial record keeping. All that's the same across all these boundaries that we have as far as markets. And we have actually developed an online system that our market masters, who are there from setup to breakdown, can, at the end of the market day or when they go home, or within 24 hours is what we ask, they can actually enter an online market report. And once they finish it, they also enter in their timesheet, and then they enter in that they have finished for the day. And once they do, that gets sent to everybody in our system, not their timesheet, but the market report gets sent to everybody in our system. The market timesheet comes to me, and we're able to track all of that data and evaluate the markets based on this tracking report that gets sent in on a weekly basis. But we're in 3 states, as I said, and Maryland, D.C., and Virginia have different rules and regulations that sort of regulate the market and also impact the farmers' participation in the market. Our farmers are drawn from 5 states, from Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and West Virginia. A Pennsylvania farmer that wants to sell in a Maryland market has to meet the Maryland regulations, even if those regulations are different than they have in Pennsylvania. So knowing about all these kinds of regulations and how they affect either our market operations or our farmers' participation in the markets is really key. We actually have one staff member who is assigned to keep up with all these regulations so that we can operate our market successfully, and that our farmers are making sure that they are within the rule guidelines of the particular state that they're selling in. So, as we're looking at what is it that we can do for professional training, there's some things that are going to be the same throughout for all the markets, but other things will be very market specific and very state or county specific. But I do know, based on my experience with FRESHFARM markets, that there is some good collaboration, especially cross-collaboration, that can happen across state lines. Here at FRESHFARM markets, we have farmers, I'm sure like you do, that have WIC and that want to accept WIC coupons at the farmers market, and they have to go through training. And we have farmers in D.C. and Maryland, and what we found was that they had to go to separate training sessions in order to be approved to accept WIC at market. And we just thought that was a really incredible waste of time, because it's basically the same training session. So for years, we've talked to D.C. and Maryland and asked them if they could do something about streamlining the training. Our Silver Spring, Maryland market is within a mile of the D.C. line. I mean, so you could actually have a Maryland customer who wants to bring in D.C. WIC and vice versa. And so we wanted to be able to make it easier on farmers to be able to accept WIC at the market. And if you've had the experience that we had, that training session for farmers to take up pretty much a whole day to come into town to train on WIC when it's the same kind of program for both entities is just a big waste of time. So this year, finally, the staff at Maryland Department of Ag, especially led by Amy Crone, and the D.C. Department of Health got together and worked out the issues, and they're offering one training session for farmers in D.C. and in Maryland to go to a single training session and then be able to accept the D.C. or Maryland WIC in D.C. and nearby counties like Montgomery and Prince George's County. So here we had a system, because of our collaborative, knowing what our farmers were going through, being able to work out really a good resolution of some training for our farmers to be able to accept WIC and D.C. coupons at markets, and made a big difference in their being able to be involved in the program. And in fact, in actually recruiting some farmers who had never been in the program before to get on board and be able to accept WIC at the market. So for me, sharing best practices and knowing what other markets are doing across the country has been really a key to the success of FRESHFARM markets, and I think to other farmers markets in our region. And as I look at my involvement with FMC, I do know that the resource library has a huge amount of material that's invaluable to anyone who is interested in the best practices for farmers markets across the country. But what I look forward to is hearing from all of you and knowing what your training needs are and how FMC can best serve you. Like I say, when I started this, it's always easier for me in a room in a conversation. I've spoken at several of the PASA conferences in State College, Pennsylvania, and it's really exciting to look out and see all those market managers who are just so eager to find ways to make their markets more successful and add different things to them and learn from other markets that have been successful. And so I just urge all of you to, be involved and let us know how FMC can really make a difference in your markets and in sharing resources that you think are important to you. Thank you. Liz?
Thanks, Bernie. The questions are rolling in for you. So if you can hang on in like 20 minutes, we're going to do the question and answer.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
No, I'm hanging on.
Thanks. So I'm just pulling up Drew's slides. Drew, you're up.
All right, and you can see my slides?
Not quite. Drew, there may be an invitation for you to share your screen with us.
I see that. Just
okay.
All right. Well, let me know when. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Looks
great.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'm Drew Montri. I'm the director of the Michigan Farmers Market Association, and like Bernie, I agree that sharing best practices and knowing what other markets are doing across the country has been really helpful for us in Michigan. And the Farmers Market Coalition, offers a great space to be able to connect with other people that are doing similar things that we are in different parts of the country. So I'm here today to share one model of a training program that we've done, our Market Manager Certificate Program. And when I looked at the initial survey results sometime last week, I saw that I think around 24 or so states had responded, and a variety of farmers market associations, but it looks like there's a number of different trainers out there, statewide associations, other agricultural nonprofits, extension and universities, state departments, and then it looks like there's some states where there are not providers currently. So I think that we all have an opportunity to kind of share what we're doing in our state. I present this not as a program that will work in every state and every situation, but it's something that we found works for us. And then we can talk more at the end of this conversation about pros and cons and if there's interest in adapting something in other parts of the country. So before I get into our certificate program, I just want to share a little bit about who we are. And Liz, I'm going to ask, can you see the pod on the right-hand side of my screen?
No.
Okay. So
we can only see your slides.
Okay, great. So the Michigan Farmers Market Association was started in 2006 with a mission to advance farmers markets to create a thriving marketplace for local food and farm products. So we are a young association, but we've pulled together many different partners and farmers markets, farmers and vendors, and friends around this mission to really do a lot of work and get a lot accomplished in the last few years. Michigan's not unlike other states across the country. The number of farmers markets in our state has been growing. When we started the association in 2006, there were 150 farmers markets in Michigan, and this year we've more than doubled that number, so there are more than 300 farmers markets in our state this year. And what that means for us is that we have a lot of farmers markets in our state that are less than 5 years old. So we have a lot of young markets and a lot of market managers that are new to this field of managing farmers markets. And at the same time, we also have some really well-established farmers markets and individuals and resources in our state who have been managing markets for multiple years. And so we find ourselves in this great position where we have a strong resource base of people that have had experience and that we can rely on it even as a young association. MIFMA would fit in that 5 to 9 years. that we can pull on kind of knowledge in this experiential level from market managers that have been at it for a while and really have established some best practices. In terms of organizationally, just to give you a sense of how this fits into our association and what we do, we have 5 main focus areas, and so we, you might remember our mission is pretty broad, to advance farmers markets to create a thriving marketplace for local food and farm products. And when we started in 2006 with this mission, we found that we really could do just about anything, and we tried to do that. And we were running really fast, and we needed to kind of sit down and focus on what we were going to, what we wanted to accomplish. And so in 2009, we received a Farmers Market Promotion Program grant, and as part of that grant, we were able to do 2 things that have been really great for us. The first is we were able to invest in some strategic planning, and that's where this comes from. And second, we were also able to develop a market manager certificate program, and I'll talk about that in a second. But we decided as an organization that we were going to focus on our organizational development. It's really important for us to focus on kind of our internal structure and making sure that we have a sound base so that we are able to offer services and provide programming. We have a marketing and membership committee, a professional development committee, a policy committee that really focuses on advocacy, and then our food assistance partnership, which has been a really important part of our work. And today we're going to focus on the professional development part of this. So our goal has been to enhance the farmers market experience by supporting lifelong professional development of our board, our staff, member markets, our vendors, and friends. And we do this through developing, providing, and evaluating professional development opportunities, which come in a range of different ways. So our professional development is pretty broad-based as well, and our market manager certificate program is one part of that. So things that we've done are we've tried to make professional development a benefit of membership, and so all of our members receive pretty significant reduced rates in any of our professional development programming. We host an annual farmers market conference, which started in 2007. We had a market manager boot camp, which was a one-day program that we aimed to new and beginning market managers, and we have now kind of transformed that into a 2-day conference that still has that market manager boot camp track. So that's for new and beginning market managers, but then we've added to it an advanced managers track and a track for farmers and vendors. We do a farmers market focus at the Great Lakes Fruit, Vegetable, and Farm Market Expo. This is one of the biggest kind of horticultural conferences in the Midwest. There's about 3,000 farmers that come to that conference, and we work with the conference organizers to have a track focused on farmers markets. We've done a lot of training around EBT and accepting SNAP at Michigan Farmers Markets. And in that work, when we started the association in 2006, we had 3 farmers markets in Michigan that were able to accept the Michigan Bridge card, which is our SNAP card. And this year, that number is up by 100 to 103. And so we've made great progress there, and a lot of that is due to having Amanda Shreve on board, who coordinates that work for us. And then some of the things that we're working on, I'll touch on a little bit later. So let me talk about our Market Manager Certificate Program. Like I mentioned, the certificate program was initially, the development of the program was initially funded through an FMPP grant in 2009. And we used our first year to focus on strategic planning, but also to identify some of the topics that we thought were really essential for market managers to focus on as they're coming into this job of managing a farmer's market. And what we had found in Michigan is that a lot of there was really no training that we could find in our state for people managing a farmer's market, and that we have some really brilliant people that are managing farmers markets that come from all different walks of life. And some of our market managers are incredible fundraisers, and some of our market managers are great at business planning, and others might be really skilled at marketing. But in order to put the kind of wide range of skill set that you need for a market manager, there was a need in our state to have a program that addressed all the different components of managing a market. And while we knew that we were never going to be able to address every single thing that comes up in a market management program, we did focus on some topics that we thought were really important for market managers to know in moving into this job of market management. And so this is a example of what the certificate program looked like in 2012. So this spring was our second certificate program that we offered. We are planning another program for 2013, and excuse me, you'll see here that the first 2 years we offered the program starting in the middle of January. It ran through the middle of March, and we did it every other week on Wednesdays. We have offered it 2 years like this, and then after the certificate program in 2012, we sent a survey out to our farmers market listserv that has about, in Michigan, has about 1,000 or so people on it, and we asked market managers if this was a schedule that they preferred or what type of arrangement in terms of scheduling they would like to see in future certificate programs, because we had gotten some feedback that market managers often have other jobs during the off season, and that it was difficult for them to get away during the middle of the week. And so this year we're going to offer the program on Fridays and Saturdays. It's going to be February 1st, 2nd, 15th, 16th, and 22nd. So we're condensing the program from 6 days into 5 days. We're keeping the same amount of educational hours, but rearranging the schedule in a way where we meet from Fridays from 9 to 6:30, and then on Saturdays from 9 to 4. And this is something that we think will help with scheduling, be able to free it up for market managers that wanted to attend in the past but just couldn't. We cover business planning and managing market growth, market governance, policy and enforcement, group dynamics, and conflict management, which ends up being an interesting session because we all know, all of us that are involved in markets know that even if we would prefer it didn't exist, that market drama does sometimes exist, and so dealing with that is an important part of running a market. We focus on marketing and outreach and fundraising. And for each of these sessions, we do our best to outline what the learning objectives are for the sessions, and then we ask at the beginning of the session, we try to rate through in a survey if they feel like, say, for example, with the first bullet point, we'll ask if they know the components of a business plan. And we'll get those survey results, and then we do, so in a sense we do a pre-test, and then after the day's session we do a post-test and measure if there are changes in understanding and kind of knowledge around those learning objectives. And we found that while we can always do a better job with evaluation, that this has helped to give us some baseline data of what the program is really helping market managers accomplish. So then we basically lay out the agenda for each day, and we bring in experts on specific topics from Michigan State and other partners that we work with. And then we also pull on our huge resource base of market managers in the state so they can offer and share their examples. one of the things that we found has been really important is for us to leave in time for breaks and to make sure that during lunch there's an opportunity to network, because getting to know market managers is, of course, really important. Those types of connections help provide a relationship with other market managers that market managers can then kind of collaborate in their own regions and then refer to each other when something comes up. One of the things that I do want to mention is that we market the certificate program as a full course, and you have to attend all of the sessions and complete all of the course assignments, which I'll come to in a minute, in order to become certified. That being said, we also allow people to attend just one day, and so if they're not interested in attending the full session, or their schedule doesn't allow them, or they feel like they're really well versed in business planning and managing market growth, but they want to come to a session on market governance, policy, and enforcement, they can come just for a day. Our rates are $300 for the full session for members and $600 for non-members. And then for single sessions, it's $75 for members or $150 for people who are not members of our association. And then as part of the certificate program, we also have a range of assignments that market managers that are completing the full certificate program need to complete. And so in the beginning, we ask them to complete a market profile and a personal profile. This is to help us better understand who's involved in the certificate program, but also it allows them to use what they've created to talk with the media or to talk to other people in the community about what the farmers market does. All of the assignments are online. They submit their assignments through our website, and then we can take them and, using a template, format them into a really pretty market profile, one-page market profile that they can use as a resource for them. So something that we've tried to do is make sure that our assignments are helping them as well, that we're obviously not giving anyone busy work. We're trying to help them create tools that they can use in their work. And then each market manager has to complete a short presentation. We're really flexible about presentation styles. They last between 10 and 15 minutes and focus on what they've learned during the certificate program and how they're going to implement that in their market in the upcoming season. And they present this to their peers, and we have obviously individuals from the Farmers Market Association, but also peers there to provide them with feedback. And it's been a really good way to kind of share what they learned, how they're going to implement it. And we can see that individuals throughout the program, really draw on different parts of the certificate program and find different pieces of it useful in their work. So once they've completed that, they receive a certificate that's signed by me and the Michigan Farmers Market Association. So one of the questions that excuse me, we've gotten in the past is, who is this certificate from? Are you working through a university or an accredited institution? And the answer is that when it's through the Michigan Farmers Market Association. And when we started this program, we're housed on Michigan State's campus, and we had looked into working with the university. And at that point in time, there was a lot of paperwork and a lot of work that would have to go into creating a program that fit into a university system. And so perhaps in the future we'll be able to work with other educational partners, but at this point in time it's organized and certified by our association. And just to kind of wrap things up, we have received a lot of great feedback on the program. A lot of it initially, right after the program, and during the program we we hear market managers tell us that they're learning things that they never knew, and they just can't wait to implement what they've learned. We hear it throughout the market season when we get emails from market managers that say, I just went to this meeting at my township, and in the past I wouldn't have been prepared for it, but I learned this kind of communication style in the certificate program, and it really helped me out. So this is just an example of some of the feedback that we've gotten about the program. And we have certified over the last 2 years 65 market managers. So we've had a variety of folks from across the state go through the program. And like I said, this is one model that's worked well for us, and it fits into our other professional development strategies, and we also have a lot of ambitions for other things that we'd like to see in our state. So one of the reasons that we've been talking with Farmers Market Coalition and we're really interested in today's webinar is because we're interested in understanding if there is a demand or interest from other states in having us put together a curriculum guide for a certificate program that could be adopted and used in other states. And then a couple of the other things that we're working on is we're working on continuing education for our certificate program and building those pieces into our conference and other professional development. We're working on online educational resources. So we do have a site, what we call our MIFMA Cyber Institute, that has a basic framework, but we have a lot more that we could be able to offer there. We're interested in offering distance education. There's markets in our state that are 14 hours from where we're located, and so we have some geographic challenges, and we'd like to be able to reach out to everyone in our state in a better way, provide regional offerings, and then we've done a few on-farm field days but are interested in doing more. So this is, like I said, again, just one model of something that we're doing, and it fits in nicely with the other things that we're doing. And we know that there's a lot of opportunity to continue to learn from other states and implement a variety of other things. So this is my contact information, and I welcome any questions, and I'll stay on for the rest of the session. I think I'm handing it over to Darlene.
Great.
Thank you.
Sure, that was great. Liz, was that you?
Yeah. So.
All right. So
a lot of questions coming in.
There are a lot of questions. So this is Darlene Wolnik, and I'm going to help Liz here by getting through the questions, and we're going to start the discussion out of that. So we've had a lot of great questions already. That a couple we've already answered that were just specifically around call. But I'm going to start with asking the questions that were devoted to this the presentation Drew made first, so we get through the specific questions about that. So Drew, you get a bunch, so you might as well just assume you're going to have a couple.
All right.
First of all, how is Michigan Farmers Market Association funded? And the question is also if you could give a percentage breakdown of revenue and budget.
Yeah, good question. So our association is funded through membership dues, fee-for-service work, which includes some of our, we do have some contracts and subcontracts with partners, a very small fundraising portion, and then we also are grant funded. We fund our market manager certificate program and our farmers market conference primarily through registration fees, and we have been kind of managing those in a break-even format. So we have not, to be real honest, we have not made money on our certificate program or our farmers market conference. We have also, in the past, we have not done sponsorship, but for the first time in 2013, we will be offering sponsorship and exhibitor opportunities at our farmers market conference. So let me kind of just, for our certificate program, it costs us, we've budgeted for 2013 that it'll cost us about $12,500 to run the program. And then we anticipate that we'll raise about $9,000 in program fees, and that we have some money which we call our sustaining program income. So from the first year when we offered it in 2011, we had we had FMPP funding to offer the program, and then we've used that money as seed money to offer the program in future years. And then our farmers market conference, we estimate in 2013 that it'll cost us about $16,500 to run that. And we have, for this one, we have money coming in through registrations, sponsorships, exhibitors, and that money pays for staff time to organize, and then obviously speaker travel, speaker stipends, and all of the kind of supplies and materials that go into setting up a conference.
Is MIFMA any way subsidized by Michigan State? Another question.
We do not receive money directly from Michigan State, except for a subcontract that we do with another partner on Michigan State's campus. But we do have office space from Michigan State, and so in that way we are. And we're housed under Michigan Food and Farming Systems, which is an affiliate of the CARS department on campus. And we share office space with them, and the value of that office space is about $22,000 a year. And so in that way, yes, we are subsidized by MSU.
Well, let me ask, when we go to the certification questions, there's a couple of them, and so they're kind of related. So the first one from Gail is, once market managers become certified, do they need to do anything to maintain the certification? Very good question.
Yeah, that's a great question, and one that our professional development committee is working on now. And so in an ideal world, we would have addressed that before we started the certificate program. But it's a question that we're getting from our certified managers right now, and so that's why we're working to develop continuing education, because the program isn't designed in a way where you would take it 1 year and then take the same program to 2 years later or something like that. The content is the same, and so we view market managers as certified on the date on which they got their certification, but then we're also working on now continuing education credits, which we don't have completely worked out, but that in a sense that will recertify or kind of renew a market manager certificate program on the date when they reach those requirements.
Well, and what percentage of all market managers attend all 6 sessions?
So what percentage of market managers? This is a guess. I would say we have most of the people that come through the program come to all 6 sessions. So we have capped the attendance at 50 people a day, and last year we had 30, or last year meaning this year in 2012, we had 30 people certified, and then in 2011 35, and so we would have up to 15 last year, and 20, about 30 are there for the full program, and then up to 20 are there just for the day.
Mm-hmm. And where are all the trainings held? Were they all in the same location, or were they held in different cities?
Yeah, we held them all in the same location. So they've all been in the Lansing. In 2011, it was in downtown Lansing. Last year, it was in East Lansing. And in 2013, it'll be in Bath, which is just 10 minutes north of Lansing. So they've been in the greater Lansing area, which is where our offices are located, and it's also a central part of the state.
Mm-hmm. How large was the FMPP grant that started this with your the certificate program?
The FMPP grant was in we were awarded the grant in 2009. It was a 2-year or 24-month grant, and it totaled $92,000, and it had 3 objectives. The objectives were to do our strategic planning and professional development for our board and our staff, which has really been invaluable to our association, to develop a certificate program, to kind of develop it and then also implement it. And then the third piece was to develop our online education, our Cyber Institute, which is developed, and there's a lot more opportunity for us to expand that as well.
Mm-hmm. And now that strategic planning, there was an earlier question about, I think it's probably termed this way based on how you presented it. How exactly did you invest in strategic planning?
So we hired a strategic coach, and our strategic coach helped us kind of with the initial strategic planning. So we did strategic planning with our board and our staff and some partners and really committed committee members. In January of 2010, we had a 2-day strategic planning retreat to kind of lay the framework of what we wanted to do. Our strategic coach, kind of gave us some models of strategic plans, but to be honest, we developed a model, a strategic plan that worked for us. It's a working document. It's kind of in a sense like a table format, and we initially updated it in 2010 every month. It was a way for us to kind of track our progress and measure what we were doing. We now update it quarterly based on our committee reports. So we've established 5 committees. Each of those 5 committees does a quarterly report, and then we use that quarterly report to update our strategic plan, which is the map for our entire organization. So it's been really helpful for us to manage, as a small staff, to manage a number of volunteers. We have so many people that are passionate about this work in Michigan and that contribute to our association through generosity of their time. So it's really been helpful for us in that way. And then we, that was kind of our first step, and then we had our strategic, this woman that helped us with strategic planning was our strategic coach for 2 years, and so we developed, based on our strategic plan, 4 areas where we needed help as an organization, and then had half-day planning session, kind of coaching sessions on those topics.
Mm-hmm. And Kelly, associated with that, how is your association founded, and who comprises the board?
Darlene, can you ask that again?
Yeah, how is your association founded, and who comprises the board?
All right, our association was founded in 2006. Michigan Food and Farming Systems was working with 2 professors at Michigan State, Jim Bingen and Susan Smalley, who worked in the farmers market community and had been doing some roundtables and really identified this need to start an association or develop a network that could act as a central resource for Michigan market managers and farmers. And so they wrote a grant through MIFS, and we ended up receiving funding from Project for Public Spaces to start a Michigan Farmers Market Association. So when they got that funding, I was hired on as project manager. We did about 8 months of visioning and listening to what our stakeholders and constituents across the state wanted, and then we launched the association. So that was, I started in June of 2006, and we launched the association in April of 2007. And our board consists of representatives of our target audience, and so we have 7 market managers on our board that represent 7 different regions. So our state has been divided into regions, and then we have 4 farmers on our board. So it's an 11-person board of directors.
And do they have terms? Are they elected in, or are they selected by you, or however they do that?
They are elected by our membership. They're served for 2-year terms, and so it's rotating. So we don't lose our whole board at the same time. So they were staggered when we started, and so now it's staggered elections, and they can serve up to 3 terms. So they can serve on the board for 6 years.
Great, good question. I'm gonna give the question and answer for two that we typed in. What Kelly had asked, Bernie of course mentioned the FMC resource library, and Kelly asked where that. I think that's what she was asking about. Where was that farmers market best practice resource? I assume that of course is the Farmers Market Coalition resource library that is available online at farmersmarketcoalition.org, and it's a ever you know, very dynamic resource library. People can upload their documents, and so you'll see a great many from states from literally all over the country. Some great, actually, stuff even as far away from as Australia. And then somebody asked if is it possible to have an electronic copy of Drew's presentation, and we will send out a PDF of all of the presentations in one, and with the questions and answers as well, and any polls that we do. I think actually Liz is about to put together a poll, and she's going to put that out. So we're going to have that in a minute up on your screen, and you're going to see a poll to answer. Now, there are a couple of questions. Oh, I'm sorry. There's another question for Drew, it looks like. Do you anticipate offering any certification via web courses, and have you done any studies as well, if you think that's effective or not in Michigan?
Yeah, we obviously there is a demand for more online trainings, and we've had a number of people ask us to offer the certificate program online. To be honest, we're not really at a capacity yet where we can handle online training, and we have talked a lot with our professional development committee about how this would work, and there's been some concern about kind of the integrity of the program. If you offer online training, how do you ensure that that individual really they themselves did the training, and did they not just flip through it? And so obviously it works. I mean, there's online, you know, kind of universities. So we haven't done it yet, but we do think that there's a demand for it, and for us it'll just kind of keep continuing to explore how that would work.
Yeah, that's understandable. Okay, well, there's a couple of questions. Oh, sorry, there's another question here, Drew. Just help you have your coffee this morning. How have you branded and promoted your association, and how much have you spent on that, just doing your MIFMA branding?
We probably haven't spent enough, but it's been really minimal. But we share a communications manager with MIFS, and we do cover a portion of her time, and she's been really incredible for us. Her name is Emily Beadle, and she's also a market manager. She manages the Texas Township Farmers Market in Kalamazoo, and she has helped us with our branding. So our logo was designed by Eat Local Food in Michigan. One of our new marketing pieces, which was on my second slide, that's the map of Michigan with fruits and vegetables, was done for us, was actually offered to us by a U of M graphic design student who it was part of her portfolio piece, and she sent it to us, and I asked if she'd be willing to, you know, put it in our color scheme and use our fonts. And so we've gotten a lot of things for free, and then Emily has helped us create a MIFMA look and feel with a color scheme and, you know, kind of, I guess in a sense, branding our association. So we haven't spent a lot on it, but we've tried to really pay attention to those details and do the best that we can with limited resources.
Yeah, I think you've done a great job with that. I know there's a couple questions for Bernie, so I'm going to give Bernie a second to unmute herself so she can answer. And this might be something that she wants to go further into. So, Bernie, the first question from Chris, your pal, Chris Curtis, is, does WIC allow farmers market staff to provide this training to farmers? This came up during your presentation, so I'm assuming it was directed at Bernie, Chris.
Yeah, I'm glad to answer, Darlene, and really that was a great presentation that I just listened to, Drew, really very impressive. But as far as the WIC training, we wish that they would allow our market managers to offer that training, but they do not. And what we're working toward is to try and have the training be online, actually offered online, so the farmers don't have to travel to the training site, because again, it usually eats up an entire day of a farmer's time, and it's very problematic. We are allowed, though, to have our market managers come and represent a single farmer if they cannot send a staff member or if they themselves cannot attend a WIC training. But you know, it took us a very long time to get this cross-promotion, this cross-training between DC and Maryland. We're just hoping that it will continue to build and we can make that training available online. That would be such a really great benefit to the farmers.
Mm-hmm. And then there was a question, I have two questions about your organization. How many paid staff do you have, and what percentage of your operating costs are covered by grants?
If I look at the markets overall, just for the staff that are on the ground from setup to breakdown, we pay our market masters, and we also pay for the SNAP EBT people that are at market. A couple of our markets require 2 paid market masters as well as the EBT person. So it's a total of 17 staff that we have that are actually running the markets. As far as market grant money, how much do we get for the markets? That's very little. When we started in '97, we actually got some grant money to start up a market, our DuPont market, and it's about $10,000. But for the most part now, grant money is coming to either fund specific programs like doing SNAP and outreach, or doing a matching dollars program with our SNAP and WIC program, or doing our school program. We get very targeted program funds from foundations, but foundation money is very small for us. It's about 12% of our budget, and none of it goes to markets. The way we actually get some market funding is to work with a partner in the community where the markets are, and we either get a sponsorship, which can be anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 or $10,000 sponsorship of either the market or a program at the market. So, for instance, our DuPont market we use the parking lot of a bank, and so they have funded our Chef at Market program, you know, between $25,000 and $5,000 a year. We just met yesterday in Crystal City, Virginia, with our partner, which is the Crystal City BID, the Business Improvement District there. We were on a 3-year contract with them, $10,000 a year, to operate the farmers market in Crystal City, and we just renewed that yesterday for the next 3 years. We started a new market in Boston, Virginia, and that BID, again, a Business Improvement District, provided an initial $15,000 sponsorship money, or partnership money, we call it. It's a grant, and they are planning to renew it for the next 3 years. So most of our money that funds the actual market operation cost is coming from businesses or business improvement districts, which are set up as sort of membership organizations, and they're charging businesses a percentage of square footage on promotion of the whole entity, whether it be Boston or Crystal City, and those monies are used for market promotions and things like that, and to fund farmers markets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. Thank you, Bernie. As people know, if they've looked into this, there's just market organizers are getting very smart, very skilled, very sophisticated at looking at many different kinds of partnerships for funding. And really, what you'll see, of course, as you go through this, is a lot of people getting very little pots of money for this, a little pot of money for this. I know that Jackie from Oregon City has been on the call. I think she's still on the call, and she does some really amazing fundraising for her kids program called POP. And it's really little pots of money from small businesses and different partners in her community. I think that's really cool. Amy Crone from Maryland sent us a note saying that in Maryland, about the WIC question that Chris had earlier, that in Maryland, the farmers actually can do the training online, which is a great model. And, you know, this is a great, when you see the list of people on this call, of course, make sure that you note those states that, you know, that have some of these programs you want to check in with. Amy's always very open to talking with people, and she, of course, also volunteered to give more information. So if people have questions about that, feel free to call to deal with it, to email Amy. And then a couple back to you, Bernie. Looks like, first of all, the first question is what are your membership and daily stall fees?
We don't do membership. We require that the farmers apply annually to our markets, and for a farmer, it's $25 a year to apply to any of the markets. For a producer, which would mean an artisanal producer like someone making pickles and they're using local product but they're not actually growing the cucumbers, that producer is required to give us a $50 annual application. And then we charge 6% of sales as the fees, and we require that farmers report on an honor system as they have for the last 15 years, and then they can pay either weekly or monthly.
Right.
Farmer fees, just to let you know, farmer fees account for about 50% of our budget, and that's only in the last 3 years. Prior to that, it was more in the range of 30 to 35%.
That's great. And then Karen Kinney asked about if you use SNAP Ed money for some of the SNAP work you do, SNAP educational money for some of the SNAP work you do, what percentage of your budget do vendor fees cover, and what percentage of your budget comes from fundraising?
I'm sorry. The first question is how do
you use SNAP? Yeah, do you use SNAP Ed money for some of the SNAP work you do? I think this is talking about whether. Go ahead.
We do. You know, we pay the person that does the actual processing of the SNAP app market, and then we have 2 outreach persons, one in D.C. and one in Maryland, and we pay them on a very small contract basis to do outreach to agencies and, you know, get out and do presentations for us. And then we also, especially in Maryland, we have a really fantastic woman who comes and will screen people at market, go through the actual SNAP application and help them fill it out. And because she works with the Maryland Department of Health, she will take it to the Maryland office on our market Saturday. She'll take it on Monday and be able to process the application for them. So it's amazing what she's been able to do. In fact, last year at the end of market, she queried all of our WIC senior customers, and they all were able to get into the SNAP program, which was really fantastic.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's
no,
great.
It really is terrific.
A good question from Chris. Is let me ask Pat's question first. Does Virginia or Maryland have a statewide farmers market association? Amy's on the call, and I think Virginia's on the call. I think I saw that too. If you want to, I don't know if Liz, if you want to unmute Amy and Lydia, who's on the call from Virginia, but we'll get back to that one. But let me ask this other question from Chris. Does the panel feel that most farmers markets across the country continue to need subsidies, sponsors, partners, grants, et cetera, to cover basic operating costs? It's a very good question. I think it probably depends on the model, and of course, you know, Bernadine will be able to talk about her markets, and then maybe Drew can talk about some of what the Michigan farmers markets have gone through. Bernadine, you want to answer that first?
Well, we're set up as a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and as I said earlier, our market fees cover about 50% of our budget. Foundation grants cover the general operating support of the organization, which is about 12%. We get individual gifts from people ranging everywhere from they can go online on our website and give, you know, $25,000 to $10,000 if they want, and that's about 9 or 10% of the budget. We do a very big special event right now. It's in process, and it will be the Monday after Election Day, a week after election, in November, and we get donated product from both farmers and from food-oriented businesses. Chefs all donate their time and pretty much all the food. We get comped for our space, and so last year we raised about $150,000 from that event. This year we're way ahead on the fundraiser. We get sponsorships for that. We get ticket sales, and like I said, a lot of donated merchandise. So we're expecting to raise close to $200,000 on that event this year. Special events has been a big chunk. It started out being very small, but we get in the range of 23 to 25% from that. And then we get some sponsorship money, as I said, either working in partnership with a business entity, and it can be as small as getting, you know, a $500 gift from maybe a yoga studio wants to come a couple of times to market and just show up and, you know, talk about eating healthy and being active, and they come to market. So We don't do we don't do membership, and we don't sell merchandise. It just was not profitable for us to do that, and so we also didn't want to have to store it and send it and all that kind of stuff.
Right,
so
right.
That's where we're at.
I think I'm going to jump in, then I'll have Drew speak up too. I think that whether or not most farmers markets need to subsidies and sponsors partners, I think it's as a rule, it's my experience that they do. They are still subsidized to some extent. I think because we keep on pushing the envelope on the innovative projects that we're adding. If we were simply running a market with bell open, bell closed, and doing the basics, I think by now a lot of markets would have figured out how to cover the part-time staff person that they would have for that. But I think what's happened is that markets continue to realize that the widest foundation is often the most stable of markets. And so I think what I've seen is that, yeah, they're still getting a lot of input, but also, as I think you hear from Bernie's point of view, that it sort of, it sort of expands her community. I think you can hear that in how she presents about her markets, is that those people who are really wanting to make the market work, of course, are supporting it by doing many things more all the time, including raising money or giving money or sponsoring to some extent. So I do find that it's regular, it's pretty normal that there's still some sort of subsidy. Drew, are you finding that in Michigan that most of the Michigan markets are doing well with their rent is covering their basic operating expenses, or are they raising more money to cover basic operating expenses?
Yeah, yes to the latter. We're finding that, most markets are still subsidized in many of the ways that have already been discussed, but also we still have a lot of volunteer market managers or market managers that are grossly underpaid, and so that's a subsidy of another form as well.
Yes, that's true. That's a very good point. Very, very good point. And that, the organizational, institutional development and organizational, institutional knowledge that we need to build in markets does go back to the certification conversation and about associations and networks. However we do this, we are talking about how we could reduce the burnout, reduce the turnover, make sure that the extraordinary amount of skills that people like Bernie Prince brings to her market are invested into the organization, into the next managers that she hires, and so on. And that's a lot to ask. So that's part of this, is really what is replication, what is making this successful. And on that, we're really a little bit past the hour. As we said, this is one of the models that we have seen around the country, and of course the Michigan model being in my experience, the most developed, extremely well thought out. Professional model of association and certification is a great one to present to begin with. But we know there are other models out there for how you are thinking about training markets, and it may be across state lines and maybe within your own network. We want to present more models on these future webinars, and we want to make sure that we open discussion as well more openly to really just talking about what are the things that we want to make sure that we agree on among this conversation. So please understand that we're going to help you, people that are on this call that have other models, contact Liz and I suggest those, because we'd love to do more of these and to make sure that other people are, other models are suggested. Here I live in Louisiana, and as most people know, across the South we have very few official statewide associations. We do a lot of networking very, very formally, and so I'm very interested in all the models that might be presented, and I'm sure most of you are. So I think we've got through all the questions. I don't think we missed any, unless Liz notices one I missed. Actually, I think
very last
Karen's the best one. Yep. Karen's
really fun.
It's a good one. Go on ahead. Drew, do you find that managers who complete the certification program are able to earn a higher wage?
That's a good question. We've heard from a couple market managers that they were able to take our certificate and negotiate a higher pay rate, but that'd be primarily on a contract basis. I think one of the individuals that I talked to was able to add a couple $1,000s to their contract, but it was already kind of a small contract to begin with. And so, well, I'll say yes, we have had market managers tell us that they're able to earn more. I still will reiterate that in Michigan, a lot of our market managers aren't getting paid what it takes to manage a market. So I'd like to say yes, but also kind of add that disclaimer in there that they do certainly still deserve a better salary for what the work that they're doing.
I think that's a great point, because what we're talking about is when we talk about professionalization of market managers, in some quarters that's taken as meant they all have to have, there's got to be only one size fits all. We know there is not. There are many, many sizes, but we are saying that this requires a great deal of money, a different level of skills, and the more that we can reduce the learning curve and make the job more enjoyable, the more likely we are going to keep this skill within the farmers market world, and also use these farmers markets managers who often go on to other program work and other parts of the food system. If they have the basic skills of running a market, well, they can do just about anything. I mean, there's really so many skills involved in that. And then the last, the reason why that this comes to the forefront today for Farmers Market Coalition as well is that, Farmers Market Coalition is wondering what is the role that they should play within these training programs, within maybe a more general training program, other types of questions that they have. So really, as you're thinking about your state and your network and your training programs, really communicate as much as you can with Liz and with Jan O'Brien, interim, and with Bernie about your needs in your state and your network, because that's how FMC is really thinking about crafting the next step of what they're going to do to support their members. So on that, the last thing we'll say as well is we're going to make sure that you all get a PDF of the presentations and the questions and answers. And I believe that Liz was successful and be able to tape this, record this, so if you need to listen to it later or share it with somebody, you'll be able to do that. Is that right, Liz?
Yes, it's being recorded.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'll send everybody out the link. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you so much.
And thanks, Drew and Darlene and Bernie. You guys were great. And to all of the attendees. And
thanks a lot.
Yes, I'll send out all of the questions and answers. Thank you, everyone, for participating. This was really great. I'm sorry we didn't really have time for the live discussion part that we had envisioned, but your questions were really good, and so I think it was okay.
Good start.
Yeah, good start. I'll talk to everybody soon. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.